Hi. I wanted to speak with you today a little bit about a really common mistake that so many of us make when we're in relationship. Something that keeps us in relationships where we feel not entirely met or where we're not entirely happy. And it's a really common mistake that a lot of us make. And it has to do with a particular way in which we avoid our own tenderness and vulnerability and the sensitive places within ourselves that come up in relationship. Often we're not even really aware of it. And before we go deeply into it, I want to just flag that there's a really good reason that we're usually too scared to open up these vulnerable places within ourselves in relationship. And that's because we've had experiences, evidence to show us that actually it's not safe to do so. Whether it be back from childhood, if you had parents that were mean to you or didn't listen to you, or even worse, maybe abused you. Perhaps if you were sad or upset or scared, they told you that you're stupid, that you should be quiet, or they might have even smacked you or yelled at you. These are all really good reasons for us not to open up and not to show those parts of ourselves that are more sensitive. It may be even that you've had experiences later on in life where you've been in relationships and you've expressed how you felt in a tender way, and you've been shut down, or you've been hurt, or they've cheated on you, or there's so many ways that we can experience the reality that it's not safe to be vulnerable. That doesn't mean, though, that you can not be vulnerable and expect to have wonderful relationships that are fulfilling, because obviously that's not going to work. Well, actually, maybe it's not obvious. That's what I want to talk about. There's a few ways that this shows up, and I want to speak about a couple in particular. And both of them relate to the thing that I call the gap. And the gap is a space within relationship that most of us avoid when it comes to expressing our vulnerabilities. So what happens if you are, if you're speaking to your beloved and you're avoiding sharing your sensitivities? Perhaps, let's say, your beloved didn't call you when they said they would, and you're feeling sad about that. Now, if we avoid expressing how we feel, which we often do, as I said, because we're afraid, because in the past, had we have said, I'm sad that you didn't call me, we would have been shut down. But there's a couple of things. One is that, we need to remember how to express it. Obviously, in the past, we might have expressed it in ways where we've said things more like, why didn't you call? So making them wrong and bad to begin with. But when we learn to instead express how we feel, so I feel sad that you didn't call me, gives them an opportunity to be the person that you really want them to be. It gives them an opportunity to give you the response that you really want. So, for instance, if you say to the person, I feel really sad that you didn't call me, they have an opportunity to say, oh, I'm really sorry. But first of all, we usually don't even say that. Secondly, if we do say that, we very rarely, if ever, leave what I call the gap. So, for instance, some of you who are watching this are probably thinking, I say that. I say to my partner, I feel really sad that this happened, and I never, however, get the response that I'm looking for. I would hazard a guess that for a great deal of us anyway, what's happening is that you're not leaving a gap. That means we're saying, I feel really sad that you didn't call. And it's not that I needed you to call straight away, but you said you were going to call and you didn't. And I waited for a couple of days and you still didn't call me. And, it's happened so many times now. La, 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 la. You get the idea. So we say the thing, I'm sad you didn't call, and then we fill it in. We fill in the space by explaining it away, by justifying ourselves, whatever it is that we can come up with to avoid being in that place of vulnerability. Because that's the really vulnerable moment, is when we tell them how we feel or what's going on for us, and then we leave it. Because then they have to say whatever it is that they're going to say, and we're afraid. We're afraid that we're going to be rejected. We're afraid that they might laugh at us or put us down, or I think the worst of all, we're afraid that they will leave us. And these, again, as I said, they're all really valid fears. But the problem is, if we don't do it, we never give them the opportunity to be the person that we want them to be the person that they usually want to be as well. So if we don't leave the gap, we will never, ever have the experience of being in a relationship where we feel really, really met. You know, the kind of relationship where we feel like they get us and where we really feel loved, because we're not giving them the opportunity to be that person. And yes, there is a possibility that they won't be that person, but wouldn't you rather know that? Wouldn't you rather know if they're not that person for you? So right there and then you can cut your losses and start fresh. And wouldn't you rather know also that they are? I know so many people, myself included, who've lived in relationships for a long time, feeling not met, feeling like there's something just not right. And it's because deep down, we've been afraid to express that thing to our partner. Now, for me and for a lot of the women that I work with, actually when we express the thing to the partner, even though we're afraid and we leave the gap, more often than not, you'll find that that person will step up and give you that tenderness and that love that you're looking for. So I guess the biggest point of this video is to say, don't let past experiences, whether they be your own or others, or even just our cultural kind of zeitgeist, stop you from having that relationship that you really want and that you really deserve, that relationship where you can express and expose your innermost self, and the person in front of you has the capacity and chooses to step forward and totally love you and hold you in that. The choice is really yours. You have the power to have that kind of relationship. If you're in one, you could help to create that now. And if you're not in one, then you can take this into your next relationship. Do you have to be brave? Yes. Do you need to be courageous and willing to hear the truth and choose love for yourself? Yes. And the thing is, you deserve it. Choose it now because you deserve it.